Amiga, do you ever feel caught between two worlds? You cherish your cultural background, but sometimes it clashes with the realities of raising a family in modern America. You might feel pressured to fulfill traditional expectations, yet you crave a life that allows you to be your true, authentic self. If you're a Latina mom nodding your head right now, I see you and I get it. Balanced Madrehood is more than your average mommy coaching program. It's a supportive comunidad designed specifically for you. I understand the unique challenges you face navigating between generations and culturas while forging your own path as a mama. Stop feeling like you have to choose between your roots and your future. Balanced Motherhood empowers you to create a life that celebrates your heritage, embraces your motherhood journey, and prioritizes your own happiness. Spots are limited. Don't miss out on this opportunity to connect with a supportive community and create a more balanced life. Visit the link in the show notes to join the waitlist for the next Balanced Motherhood cohort. I can't wait to meet you. You're listening to the Viva la Mami podcast, a podcast about all things motherhood. I'm your host, Jessica Cuevas. I am a mother of one on a mission to redefine the meaning of motherhood as a first-generation, bilingual, and bicultural Latina mommy. Regardless if we feel like a failure from time to time, or if we succeeded with the little things in our motherhood journey, it is important to celebrate all of these experiences as madres. So, bring your cafecito as I invite you to be a part of this space and create raw and honest conversations about the exciting and challenging parts of being a mommy. Ahora, vámonos. Hola, hola, amiga. In this Viva la Mami Spotlight episode and part 2 of 2 episodes, you will hear mi tía Gabriela Serna's story about having a neurodiverse familia. If you have not listened to the first part of this 2-episode VLM Spotlight series, please do me a favor and stop this episode and make sure to go to last week's episode, which is episode 17, to get a full introduction about mi tía Gabi. But you'll also have the opportunity to hear about her raising neurodiverse twins. In this week's episode, mi tía Gabi shares her very own story about being diagnosed with ADHD as an adult and how she had to navigate this all while trying to heal from low self-esteem and self-compassion. She also shares how she has navigated having a neurodiverse familia and how the Latinx community can overcome cultural barriers and stigmas about mental health and neurodiversity. Hope you get so much out of my conversation with her and how she has endured so much as a neurodivergent Latina raising neurodiverse twins. Now, let's get into the part 2 of 2 episodes with mi tía Gabriela Serna. So now we can shift over to your story también.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you share your story about your diagnosis with ADHD? I know that you shared that you were 38, pero kind of like what were the signs or what kind of moved you to get or receive help?
Well, it all kind of started at 18, or no, I should say, let's go way back. I was actually a child who had lead poisoning at 2 years old.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had lead poisoning. And so I was actually not able to read until I was like 11. So they thought it was because of the lead poisoning that I was having learning disorders. I started reading when I was 11. And you know, and it's so good because even back then, my mom and dad took me to a private school, and that's where I got the help that I was able to get. So even back then, they did everything possible to help me. So I started getting like, tutoring classes at St. John Bosco when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I started reading. But there was always this thing of like never being able to pay attention, never being able to focus. just my mind never being 100% in anything. So then at 18, I was diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety, like an actual diagnosis. So I went through high school, not always thinking there was something wrong with me because I couldn't learn the way others did, because I couldn't focus the way others did, because I would never stick to one thing the way others did, because I was very impulsive, because I was too talkative, and some things never change. All these things, I just thought there was something wrong with me. Never thought that it was actually a medical, or yeah, kind of like a medical issue. So when Emilio got diagnosed, I started looking into like different types of disorders, or whatever you want to call them. And I was like, oh, when I started looking into ADHD, because his doctor thought that he had it. And when I started looking into it, I'm like, that sounds familiar. And this sounds familiar. And this sounds familiar. And I'm like, wait a second. I think I might have it, because ADHD does manifest very different in men and women.
Oh,
So
interesting.
for the way my psychiatrist explained it was that in women, the hyperactivity is not so much on your physical. Like, we appear to be lazy, actually. People are always like, oh, eres bien floja, no te gusta hacer nada. It's not that. It's just that mentally we're exhausted. So what happens in women mostly is that our mind doesn't rest. So like, we sleep, but we don't get good sleep because our mind keeps on going and going and going and doesn't stop. So that's why, in the morning, you're like, why am I still tired? Why do I not want to do anything? That's because my mind really doesn't rest. So that's one of the differences between ADHD and men and women. For men, it's more like they're hyper and, jumping around and doing all these things. And for women, it's more like the mental hyperness. That is what makes it. That's the biggest difference between men and women. Another sign of it is compulsivity. Not compulsive, impulsivity. There you go. We tend to be very impulsive and sometimes reckless when it comes to spending also. When it comes to spending, because that impulse of wanting something, we hyper focus on stuff. So like, for example, let's say I would like knitting. Oh my God, I will buy everything to knit. I will take the class. I will do this. I will do that. I'll buy all the yarn in the world and end up never doing it. And maybe next time, oh, you think you're a musician. Oh, you'll buy all the instruments in the world, but then you don't do it. So you hyper focus, and then you just kind of let it go. So, and that's something that I've always been told, that nunca acabas nada. Siempre empiezas todo, pero nunca acabas nada. And I always saw it as, I'm not good at anything, and that's why I don't finish it. That's what I always thought about myself. Like, porque no sé hacer nada, por eso no lo termino. College, I never finished it. I would start a semester. I would buy the books, I would buy the notebooks and all that cool stuff. Never finished it. I was never able to finish anything. And I just thought that it was because, I don't know, because soy burra, porque soy floja, porque, all these things that I always would put myself down because I felt like I was never able to accomplish anything. Like, I would start a million things, but never finish anything. I would never be able to accomplish anything. And so that was one of the big things when I started talking to my primary doctor. She's like, look, I can't diagnose you. I can't, because I'm not the person to go to. And she's like, but that's what it sounds like. I started going to a psychiatrist, and they're like, yep, that's exactly what's going on, what's been going on your entire life. And I started treatment. So now I'm on Adderall on a pretty low dose. And it was the way I explain it, it's like if you have a veil, right? And you've never been able to clearly see, you can see, but not clearly see. And I just feel like Adderall just poof, took that veil off. And I'm like,
Wow.
oh, so this is what people, that's what they see, that's what they do.
Yeah.
So now it's helped a lot when it comes to the impulsivity of shopping, of hyper focusing on things, able to clean my house,
Yeah.
because that was a huge thing where you start one place, go to another, and then you just never get anything done. And people confuse that with just you being lazy, o que eres cochina, or que eres desorganizada, or and that really brings you down a lot.
Yes. It's almost like
Because
todo es tu culpa.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's always been the feeling. But now that I understand, okay, maybe it wasn't all me, and now that I can actually clean my house, I'm like, whoa, so this is what a clean house looks like, because now I can actually focus on cleaning one room at a time. Now I can focus at reading one book at a time, at seeing one show at a time, because everything was always just scattered all over the place. And now it's not 100% perfect. My mind still goes everywhere sometimes, but it's definitely a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And
so
right now,
good.
it doesn't help that there's an Adderall shortage.
Oh, is there?
Yes, so whoever's out there that's using it without a need, please stop it, because
just go to a college town.
yes, because of us who
Oh
need
my
it, yeah. So I've been
gosh.
unmedicated for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they don't know when they're gonna get it again. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully you do get your prescriptions back because, that can make you
Hmm.
all like descontrolada, and that's
Yeah,
not
which
good.
right now I'm like, oh my God, how did I ever function before this? Like,
Yeah.
that's when you realize exactly how bad things were.
Hmm.
That's when I'm like, oh, how did I live 38 years of my life like that?
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, cool, this is what real people feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, now that you reflect on that and even say it right now, like, speak it
Hmm.
out right now, like, how did you navigate all of this time up until now that you know that you officially have, ADHD as an
I have
adult?
I have no idea. I really don't. Like, I
Yeah.
honestly think that this whole time I've been winging it, like, you know,
Yeah.
and like I said, that cost me a lot of self-esteem issues.
Mm.
And I truly believe in a certain way it caused my marriage too,
Mm.
because a lot of things about me were not understood because I didn't know what was wrong with me. But it's been difficult. It's taken me a long time to start believing in myself again. You
Mhm.
know, it's taken me a long time to believe that I'm somewhat of a decent human being. Like, because for a long time, it's like, no sé hacer esto, no sé hacer lo otro, no hago esto bien, no hago esto. But luckily, I would say the last 2, 3 years have been a lot better. And I can tell
Yeah.
you that it's probably the happiest I've been, because now I have an answer for
Yes.
all those weird questions that I had my whole life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Wow.
and actually, even my psychiatrist mentioned something, that a lot of people who are on antidepressants and anxiety medications, once they get on ADHD treatment, they're able to get off or decrease the dosages of those medications a lot.
Wow.
Because a lot of what you think, or what you see as depression and anxiety, is actually your ADHD
Interesting.
doing a number on you. So like all that feeling of worthlessness, like, oh, I can't do anything. So it's like a package deal, kind
Mhm.
of. Yeah, thank you. It's like a package deal that you get. And I have noticed a lot of that depression. It's kind of like, oh, I'm feeling so much better about myself
Wow.
now that I'm in treatment for ADHD. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you're more present,
Yeah.
with yourself.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I'm like, oh, this is what normal people go around life functioning like. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've
Wow.
been missing out.
But you're only 40 now,
Yes,
and so
I'm
you still have a
40,
whole life ahead. And I hear
or
40s are
as
better.
yes, or as my cousin Sheila says, 39.99 plus tax.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so we're not 40, we're 39.99 plus tax. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I love it. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's a matter of just asking questions, and I'm sure that you becoming a mom, like it really influenced you to really
Oh
reflect on
yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
and really
Because
think,
now, yeah, because now it wasn't about me functioning for me. Now it's me having to take care of other human beings.
yes,
Then I'm like,
yeah,
okay, if I screw up myself. But now it's like if
yeah,
I screw up two kids. It's like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And
mhm.
speaking of, with you being a mom, and so what are what were or still are like some of the challenges of being a neurodiverse family between Emilio, you, and like who knows what will happen to
Mhm.
Sophie, right? But like, what do you foresee some of the challenges, or what are the current challenges?
The clashing, of
Mm.
our disorders. Yeah. Because it's like uno piensa así, otro piensa kind of bam, we kind of.
Yeah.
So that's I think one of the most challenging things, having the patience
Mm.
to having the patience that is needed for a child on the spectrum when there's also something going on with you.
Mm.
That I think is the biggest challenge, and that's something that I actually do want to get help for. Like, if I go to like a family therapist,
Mhm.
that helps me like cope with that because I think like any mom, I lose my patience too.
Mhm.
Sophie says I'm a yeller,
Yeah.
and I am. But then your mom's a yeller too, so
Yep.
it's in the family.
I know. I know. Alex
Yeah.
says like, "Why are you yelling all the time?" I'm like, "This is my voice."
Thank you. Thank you. That's why I told Sophie, I'm like, Sophie, that's just that I'm not yelling at you. Just like, why are you screaming at me? I'm like, that's just my voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that the biggest challenge is the clashing of the disorders.
Mm,
That's that's a big challenge, and that's something that we definitely still have to work on a lot.
yeah.
And also with their dad, he doesn't have any of those, so it's hard for him
Yes.
to understand why I do certain things or say certain things
Mhm.
or that also the co-parenting relationship I think has gotten better because of my diagnosis because now
Mm,
I guess we understand a lot of things. But yeah, yeah. So I think that's the challenge. We got to work on that one.
yeah.
Hmm.
No, that's good. And it's good that you mentioned about seeking like family therapy,
Hmm.
porque it doesn't end, even though you've been
God no,
diagnosed, like
it
no,
doesn't.
it's
It's just the beginning. The diagnosis is just the beginning
right. Right.
of it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just the beginning of all the help that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, but our insurance system, our health system is so,
Yep.
it should be fun. It should be fun. Well, it got 6 months for my insurance to be able to cover my Adderall
Oh,
because they didn't want to cover it
interesting.
because apparently it's not necessary. Yeah, it took 6 months of my psychiatrist and the pharmacy fighting with them to cover it. So,
Hmm.
mhm,
Hmm. Wow.
yeah,
Well, like I said, go to a college town. I'm sure you'll get it cheaper.
yeah, I know, right?
I've got recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Send me to the pharmacist. Yeah, but now they're covering it now, finally.
That's good.
But now
Yeah.
there's a shortage,
Now
so
there's a
here we go.
shortage. I know, Dios mío. Oh man. Alrighty. So kind of wrapping up, this part of the interview. What are some things you would like to share with the Latino community about mental health and neurodiversity?
Don't be afraid.
Mm.
Don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed. Because at the end of the day, no one is going to look out for you the way you are. You know, no
Mhm.
estás loco. There's nothing wrong with you. The same way I have diabetes,
Mhm.
the same way I have to use insulin for my diabetes, is the same way I have to use medication for my mental disorders.
Mm.
You know, people are always like, be positive, be positive. Well, yeah, that's not going to do anything. It's like
Mhm.
me thinking, que se te baje el azúcar, que se te baje el azúcar. It's not going to do anything. I need the
Right.
insulin, you know? So why do we think it's different from mental disorders? You know, like, why do we think that we could just think positive and it's miraculously going to go away?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
not, you know? So that's the main thing. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed and speak out.
Mhm.
Speak out. And make it a family topic too,
Mm.
you know? And I think that's what's really cool about our family. They were open about it.
Yeah.
You know, like your abuelita and your abuelito are never like, oh, no digas esto, no hagas, you know, they're
Mhm.
and I really admire that of our family because
Right.
I never feel like I have to be ashamed of it, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
good. And final question about like this part is there kind of like a mom group or, as far as reaching out and finding like
Hmm.
como your grupo de families or the mommies who have a neurodivergent kid or children, like I know that you have community, pero
Hmm.
how did you seek out that community?
It was mostly through school,
Oh, okay, good.
like meeting the moms. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, I can talk to a perfect stranger and make friends with them right away. So that's kind of what helped me. Like at school pickups and all that stuff, I started talking to some of the other moms and dads, and that's kind of how we became our own little group.
Mhm.
But honestly, I've never seeked anything outside of it. I think that's a cool idea,
Mm.
maybe starting a group of moms or parents like that. But mostly it's just at school. It's just
Yeah.
at school and the teachers. Oh my God, they're amazing. They
Yeah.
you know, I've made really good friends with the teachers too. So that's been a huge help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's good that you have your, support system.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's good. Beyond like La Familia, because
Yeah.
sometimes family
Hmm.
is great, but a veces we're not
Yes.
the experts or we're not the ones experiencing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have one friend in particular, Carolina. We've become really close friends because our kids are what people consider like more high functioning or whatever. And sometimes people think they don't have challenges just because they're not as severe as others. But we know our own challenges. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we know we have our moments. It's not what you see. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if people, when you see Mio, they're like, oh, I had no idea. But we know and we understand each other. And I think that's why we've become so close because we understand what the other is going through.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's
And
great.
fun fact, her husband was my Spanish teacher in high school.
What? No way.
Yeah, so I don't know if you remember from my birthday, the couple that was there. They
Yes.
were yes. So he was my Spanish teacher in high school.
That is
Yeah.
hilarious. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh.
And now we're like family friends. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Such a small world. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah. Hmm.
All right, so now we're gonna go to the Viva la Mami questions that I always ask mommies in the show. And so, what still surprises you about being a mommy?
That I'm a mommy. Period. I look at that. I'm like, whoa, you're mine. Like, are you sure you're mine? Yeah. I think that you never become an expert. Like you're
Mm,
always learning. Like it's just every stage is different. Just when you think you've mastered the whole mom thing, you're like, oh man, I was
mm,
not ready for this. So
mhm.
yeah, I think we just always we're constantly learning and everything's still a surprise, honestly.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
things that come out of their mouths is also a surprise most of the time because, oh Lord. Yeah.
It's so fun. What is one tip of advice that you have for Latina mommies in general?
Be yourself.
Mm.
Be yourself. Don't be the mom that you think people want you to be.
Mm-hmm. That's a good
Be
one.
the mom that you want your children to grow up with.
Mm.
I think that's the main thing. Forgetting about, like I said, el que dirán is always a huge thing in our community. And I've always said it, like, either vas a hacer lo que los demás quieren y vas a vivir una vida miserable, and they're still going to talk about you.
Mm.
Or vas a vivir tu vida a tu manera y vas a ser feliz y de todos modos van a hablar de ti. So,
There's no
you know,
right.
just
There's no way out.
no, there isn't. There really isn't. So I think just being your authentic self. Like, don't sugarcoat things. Don't try to be the perfect Pinterest mom that
Mm.
really doesn't exist.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't.
Mm-mm.
Like, I just think that that's what we have to stop trying to reach perfection because there is no such thing.
Right.
Yeah. So I think stop trying to reach perfection and just be yourself and be the mom that you want your kids to remember you as being one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I love this one. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. Okay. Final question. What is your meaning of madrehood?
Ooh. I've listened to every episode and I still don't know. I think it's shaping other humans.
Mm.
I always call my kids my little humans
Yes.
because they're my little humans. Motherhood is about shaping those humans.
Mm.
And I know I've always said this. I want my kids to be professionals, and I would love for that, lawyer, doctor, whatever they want to be.
Right.
But my main goal in life is to make them good human beings.
Yes.
And if I can get the good human being part, the rest of it is a big plus. But I
Mm.
think motherhood is shaping good human beings.
Yes. Oh,
Mhm.
I love this. And you are shaping wonderful little human beings. Like,
Thank you.
they're just wonderful. They're so funny. I don't know. It's just so cute, like how, when I held them when they were a couple like days
Oh,
old.
I know.
Yeah, like they're basically like my shoulder height, I think. Like they're so tall. I'm like, oh my
Yep.
gosh, you're
Especially
growing so fast.
Sophia. She's
Yeah.
tall. I'm like,
Man.
I'm not liking this whole you growing up thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I'm
know.
not. I'm not. And it's funny because that's how many feel when Baby Bear's older. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Baby Bear's Jesse's son.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You started naming D since I was pregnant, right? Baby Bear. And now
yeah.
with this one, I don't know.
And now he or she is Baby Bear for now.
Yes.
Baby Bear, and
Baby
then
Bear. Yeah.
we'll figure something out later. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Thea, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank
I
you.
really appreciated your story again is just so inspiring. I'm sure that many of the listeners are going to get something out of this because I think that it is very important to speak the truth, to just talk about our experiences, and especially with you and having a neurodiverse family. I think that we should never ignore, like the life experiences that you had, porque
Mhm.
yeah, like yeah, you're already like compartiendo with someone else, and I think
Yeah.
that they'll be able to connect. And so thank you so much for being here. I really
No,
appreciate it.
thank you. Thank you. And like I was telling Gabby yesterday, I'm like, I have so many issues that I think I got shows for years for Jesse.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm gonna keep her busy.
We'll definitely have you again to talk about other things. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'll keep topics
But you're
going. I got a lot
yeah.
going on.
Yeah, you're always welcome to be here. So
Thank you,
yeah,
baby.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Viva la Mami podcast. If you like this episode, make sure to leave a review and write what episode really resonated with you. If you really loved it, share it on social media or with an amiga. As always, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening. Make sure to follow me at Viva la Mami on Instagram or visit vivalamami.com. Please note the information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be replaced by your healthcare provider nor taken as professional advice.